Okay, so think back to graphing from the beginning of the year when we had functions. So if I had something like y is equal to x squared, that's a parabola. If I had y is equal to x minus 2 squared, because we're subtracting from the x value, everything's going to shift to the right. Shift to the right 2 spaces. But now we're doing the exact same thing, but with trig functions. So here, we're going to move everything over to the right. So first off, let's establish our amplitude here is 1, and the period is equal to 2 pi, right? Because b is equal to 1, and we have the period is equal to 2 pi divided by 1. But now we have this shift. Well, we are going to shift to the right 4 pi over 3. So what I like to do, I think about my usual points, right? 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. And I'd like to make a little table here to do some math. So first off, what I'm going to do, if I'm shifting everything to the right, I'm going to be adding 4 pi over 3. So I add 4 pi over 3. So this is 0 plus 4 pi over 3. This is pi over 2, which if I have a common denominator, this is 3 pi over 6 plus 8 pi over 6. This right here, this is going to be 6 pi over 6 plus 8 pi over 6. This will be, if I multiply by 3, 9 pi over 6 plus 8 pi over 6, and then finally 12 pi over 6 plus 8 pi over 6. So what do I get? Well, I get 4 pi over 3. I get 11 pi over 6. Here I get 14 pi over 6, which I could have reduced, so that's 7 pi over 3. Here this is going to be 17 pi over 6. And this is going to be 20 pi over 6, which is just 10 pi over 3. Now if you notice, how far is it from our starting point to our end point? If I subtract these, I get 6 pi over 3, which is 2 pi. That is our period. So since the period is 2 pi, this checks out. And so when I graph this over here, x-axis, y-axis, the amplitude is 1. So amplitude is 1, negative 1, and then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the cosine function, remember, it's like this this bell. So just like this. And it's going to curve. Well, where are these points? Well, this is 4 pi over 3. This is 11 pi over 6. This is 7 pi over... Oh, sorry. I made the mistake. So we're not starting at 0 right now, are we? So this is the new 0. And then we're ending here. So this is 4 pi over 3. This is 11 pi over 6. This is 7 pi over 3. This is 17 pi over 6. And this is 10 pi over 3. So if I'm starting at 1, we stop there, go there, drop down, make this nice little bell. And there we go. So that's the cosine function. Notice how we shifted away from our y-axis. So we want to make sure that this y-axis is located in the correct spot. But here it's still, everything else holds out true. So we could have a different period, we could have a different amplitude, but That's all we have to do. We just have to add these to the points. So it's a little bit of fraction work, nothing too complicated. So best of luck.